Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask Talk Show. Today's show, ladies and gentlemen, is What Does Your City Officials Do in Detroit? We'll be right back. Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask. Today's show, ladies and gentlemen, is What Does Your City Officials Do? And we have a city official from the city of Detroit, Director Willie Donwell, at Property Assessment of Board of Review. Good afternoon, Mr. Donwell.
Wonderful, wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Mr. Donwell, I know you're not familiar with our program, but I'm going to fill you in. So here at Just Ask, we always want to invite someone in to tell our viewers what's going on in the city, what medical resources are available, and things of that nature. So I heard a little bug about something with property exemption programs and everything, and people are a little turned around and confused. Can you give us some insight about yourself and the program that you oversee?
Absolutely. So let's start with the Board of Review itself. The Board of Review is a 9-member body appointed by City Council to hear property tax appeal concerns. That's their job. And the key thing with an assessment is to understand you have the right to appeal it every year if you want to. So you want to take the opportunity to at least look into it. It gives you the ability to see how you're going to be taxed before it even happens.
Okay. I bet you most people don't even know that.
No, you'd be surprised.
Okay. So your role there is a director.
Yes, it is. And so I take care of all the administrative tasks. My job is to make sure that the board has what it needs, kind of following the rules and guidelines set by the STC, the General Property Tax Act, and that the board acts accordingly as it relates to matter of the law and process.
Okay, all right. So normally, I know some people may be familiar more or less with the Board of Review and some of us aren't. But before a person gets to the Board of Review, what is the process?
The great part about it is when you are going to appeal your assessment, you have the right to do this pretty much any property that's owned in the state of Michigan. You have the right to appeal your assessment. So you want to contact your local assessor and find out the dates for the March Board of Review. Pretty much across the state, every municipality has to have a March Board of Review. The difference, though, in the city of Detroit, we have what's called an assessor review. Now, it's not required, but it is highly suggested. It gives you the opportunity to sit down with the local assessor and talk about your property. You file an appeal, and a lot of things that you find out that needs to get adjusted or taken care of can be done at the assessor's review without actually having to come to the March Board of Review. Okay. And generally, every year, the dates are pretty standard. It's February 1st through the 22nd every year in the city of Detroit. Now, if you're not satisfied with the decision of the assessor's office, you have the right to appeal to the March Board of Review. Again, you don't have to go to the assessor's review. You can come directly to the March Board of Review, but you have to do it by the second Monday in March. That is a requirement under state law.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So with the assessor, a person is concerned that they don't know what their property line is, or, if their rate is going to go up if the assessor or somebody comes out. Is that the assessor that comes out and actually looks at a person's house? Because people get confused on which one does what. They say, I'm not calling them because my property value is going to go up. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. The great part about our process is it does require the assessor to look at a property pretty much every year. They have to look at the market, they have to look at sales, and they may not actually come out and look at the property itself, though. So what you want to do is, and that's why the appeal process exists, you want to make sure that the assessor is placing the correct value on your property. So you want to go in again that between that February 1st and 22nd in Detroit, go and talk to the assessor. Hey, I got this assessment notice in the mail, and the information that's on this assessment notice, I don't quite agree with, or how did you come up with these numbers? Right? And so the assessor has the responsibility of explaining that to you. And so the great part about, again, the process is it also gives you the ability, along with the assessor, to talk about things that may be wrong the assessor doesn't know. You may have structural issues. You may have damage inside of the home the assessor may not be familiar with. You may have cost to cure that has occurred over the past couple of years that, again, the assessor may not be familiar with that could affect your property value. Okay. So it's really, really important to get into the assessor and talk about your value and what they have on record.
It just seems like so many people are afraid to relate to the assessor. They're like, oh no, I don't want anybody to come out to my house and, you know, assess my property because it's going to go up in the taxes. Then the house could be valued at more. Is it based on the area, or is it based on the neighborhood, or is it just the individual?
It's all of the above.
Okay.
So local assessors use what's called the mass appraisal process. Again, it's guidelines that's given to them by the State Tax Commission under the General Property Tax Act. So what they're required to do is you typically use a 2-year sales study, sometimes a 1-year sales study, and they will use that information and develop neighborhoods based upon the mass appraisal process, and then from that mass appraisal, narrow down to your particular home, looking at similar properties and sales over that particular time period. And this is why condition is always important, because they're looking at sales, but they may not be familiar with the particular condition that's going on inside of your home.
Wow. Okay. A lot of people are just assuming that, you know, the assessment is based on the outside of the structure and not the inside.
That's the outside is the starting point.
Okay.
They when they're developing the square footage, it is based on the outside perimeter of the home, the height of the home, the characteristics and the design of the home, whether it's brick, frame, wood, whatever that may be. If you have a garage, perfect example on the assessment notice, it talks about improvements. It doesn't mean that you've improved your home. It just simply means that there's improvements on the land. Anything other than dirt is an improvement.
Doesn't mean it was the brick and mortar part. Okay.
There we go. Right.
Okay. Now, what about if someone has a vacant lot next to them and they want to purchase that lot? Is that lot also assessed with that person's home, or is that a separate situation?
It could be a separate situation. Every property in the state of Michigan and in the city of Detroit especially sits on what's called a parcel. That parcel has a width and a depth. And what that simply means, how wide that parcel is, and from the street, how far it goes back. And so that is the actually beginning point of how property is going to be valued. And so the width, meaning if you're standing on the street looking at the property, the width is only going to be so wide. So if that property line stops, that the next lot is an additional parcel.
So we're going to take a break on that note. But ladies and gentlemen, did you hear that? Those of you who own those additional lots, pay those taxes on that. We'll be right back.
This isn't a workout video. It's about how LLS has helped blood cancer patients like me thrive, and how your donation can help countless others. Please give today at LLS.org.
And welcome back to the show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, you know I always tell you when you tune in to Just Ask, there's some very helpful and supportive information, no matter what it is, whether it's medical, legal, or citywide, okay? So today, the director himself, Willie Donwell, has joined us to tell us more about what is the Board of Review. And you need to know this, because if you're having problems, or you think you're having problems with dealing with your taxes or the property, you want to know something else about it, this is the man you want to talk to. So if you have some questions, you can give us a call, 1-800-323-5336, 1-800-323-5336, and we'll get your questions over to Mr. Donwell, as well as we'll put down below the page the web address that you can contact them. All right. So, Mr. Donwell, we want to get that out because somebody's going to be watching this show saying, you know what, I am so glad he spoke up today and told me what I can do, because a lot of people get confused. They just realize that I got to pay taxes. Why is my taxes so high? Let me ask you this. So, if a person's been living in the house for over 40 years, 40, 50 years, would they not be, how would they go about finding out if they're eligible for exemption? Because a lot of people just feel like they're just going to keep paying that same bill over and over, but you've been in that house for 50 years and your income probably is still the same.
That's a great question. Homeowners have the ability to seek a tax exemption based upon income. And our seniors need to understand that the opportunity exists for them. I really want them to understand that they should go through every step to make sure that their property is being assessed fairly and accurately. They go through the March Border Review to be able to appeal their assessment and provide the necessary information to make sure that that property is assessed, including if they need to provide photos and images. And even if they don't like what the board says, take that appeal to the Michigan Tax Tribunal and get represented if they need. There's a lot of free legal services that can assist them. But if they're struggling with those property taxes, if they're dealing with issues where they need assistance, they need to apply for the HOPE program. The HOPE program is based upon the General Property Tax Act under MCL 2117U, and I love actually talking about the law because it provides the fact that this is based on the law and not something that somebody just made up along the way. So MCL 2117U is the poverty exemption statute that is part of the General Property Tax Act. We call it the HOPE program because we just believe in uplifting and not putting down. So because if you say poverty long enough, somebody might start to believe it, right?
Right.
So we start using HOPE, Homeowners Property Exemption. It provides an opportunity to see a reduction or elimination of the current year property taxes based upon income. And the great part about it is with our seniors who are on a fixed income, things aren't going to change a whole lot, right? It's the same thing outside of that little rate of inflation that they get every year. But if they don't hit the Powerball or Mega Million, it ain't changing.
Okay.
Right? So it provides an opportunity to see a reduction, elimination of the current year property taxes. And we provide tons of ways for them to get assistance.
That's great. That's great because, just hearing you say that, there's always someone, especially our seniors, our veterans, who are saying, I'm paying these taxes and, I wish I could get a break, and they don't know that they are eligible for a break because they never knew that they should apply. So we're going to, bring up some literature later so people can get these numbers and see what's going on. But as our aging seniors are doing home improvements to their home, say like wheelchair ramps or anything, is that does that value go up on their home when they do those things, or it just stays the same?
So state law requires that any improvement on a property is valued. And so what that simply means is anything other than dirt will have a value. Okay.
Other than dirt.
Okay. So if you have a vacant lot and you put a fence around it and just a concrete driveway, then you've improved it. There's no house, it's just a fence in the concrete driveway, but you've improved it. So there will be an additional cost as it relates to taxes concerning those improvements. So when you add to the value of the home, there could be an additional cost. What we have to understand is what those improvements are, especially if they're just quality of life improvements. So what you want to do is make sure that you talk to the local assessor and work with them in terms of finding out if there's going to be an additional cost. Okay. Perfect example, if you're going to your home and you're doing some basic handicap accessible, like, the rails or things like that, then, typically there's no additional cost. But a wheelchair ramp, you have to make sure that you're working with the assessor because it could balance out. Right? It could balance out. And that's why I love working with the local assessor that we have now, because, our assessor really understands how to develop that balance to make sure that everything is actually fair.
A lot of people who had family members who had a ramp onto the home, once that person has passed or went to a facility of some sort, they take the ramp down. And I find that the house would be valued more for selling purposes because there are individuals who are wheelchair bound that needs to have some accommodations already in a home instead of having to bring it to the home. Do you guys have any relations to any of that? You know, because it's like, I just want to know, like you said, the property value can sway either way.
Right.
But some people have a thing about just taking the ramps off and say, oh, well, the house would be more valued if we didn't have this ramp on here. And I don't agree with that.
Well, here's the interesting thing. State law actually uses these words: willing seller, willing buyer.
Okay.
Right? Or what is the usual selling price? And it's based upon certain circumstances. And so it just simply means, you know, what does the buyer want to pay? And does it meet the standards that the buyer wants for the home? And so the assessors and board of review sit in the process where we react to the trend in the market and not necessarily set the trend. So we can't go out and say, hey, you know, these houses should have wheelchair ramps or they shouldn't. We just simply react to what a person purchases.
Okay. Well, that goes along well with it. You know, I just was concerned that soon as someone passes on, the family come along, snatch the ramp off, and think that, you know what, I could sell this house for more if I didn't have this ramp. But accommodations are always welcome, you know, for those with disabilities. So I tell you what, we're going to go to another break and come back with some more. I know, get your pen and paper out, ladies and gentlemen. You know you need to take down these numbers, okay? We'll be right back.
If you store your guns properly,
I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside.
Safer when walking home.
And I won't have to tell my kids, this isn't a drill.
Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Always lock it up.
And welcome back to the show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are having your pen and paper out, getting these phone numbers, and you're going to see some information come up on the screen shortly so that, you know, if you have some future questions for Mr. Donwell, you can actually call us or call the numbers that you see on the screen. Now, those of you who are not computer savvy, this is the program for you because we know that you can't use the computer, unable to use the computer, don't have family members that want to spend time with you on the computer, so why not tune into Just Ask Talk Show and ask your questions, and we'll get that answer back to you. So at the bottom of our screen, you see our website, justasktalkshow.org, or give us a call, 1-800-323-5336. Now, Mr. Donwell, I had to do that because, like I said, this program is designed for people in mind that cannot use the computer and so forth, you know, and just have questions. And today's segment with you is just brilliant. I mean, people are really going to be tuning in because a lot of people always around the same time of the year are concerned about their property taxes and, you know, I should apply for this exemption, never got it, didn't know how, and here it is, the man himself telling us how to do this. Okay. So I want to go to some you know, information that we have posted on our screen to give people an idea of how to and when to apply. So
Yes.
by all means, I'm glad that you're here to be able to follow us through and tell us what each one of these screens that we're about to see.
Great.
So what do we have here?
So this is our citizens information packet, and it provides general information about what the board of review is, how to appeal your assessment, but also important things you should know about your property and how your property taxes are calculated. It's really, really important that you receive and get a copy of this so that you can understand. I know we're always talking about, we're listening to what other entities and organizations say, and it's good to have advocates out here who fight for us. But you have to begin to read and understand yourself because when we own property, we have our obligations.
Okay. So ideally, this packet is the same every year, it's just a date change.
Date change or things that may change under the law.
Okay.
So from time to time, our legislators change certain things, so we have to do updates.
Okay. So the Property Assessment Board of Review and this form here tells us what?
So this talks about what I was saying earlier, the board being that 9-member body and its responsibilities that it meets 3 times of the year in March, July, and December to review certain things as it relates to what's under its purview and to make sure that the public knows who's actually sitting on the board and who's representing them in their district.
Okay. Great. Okay, and how to appeal your assessment. So if you disagree with something or got questions about something, this is the form?
This is correct. This is the process for you to understand how to appeal your assessment with the general dates and times to file your appeal and the steps that you need to go through. This is really, really important because dates and times matter. And outside of the assessor review being set as February 1st through the 22nd, everything else is subject to specific time frames like the second Monday in March as the filing deadline to the March Board Review. The actual day may change, but there will always be a second Monday in March.
Okay, because I see it says up there February 1st through the 22nd.
Correct.
Okay, and those are the standard dates all the time, every year?
Every year.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay, and so the homeowner property exemption application policy and guide. So a person, can they call and get this application sent to them? How do they receive one?
You know, this is a great question. So they can receive this application multiple ways. They can complete the application online through detroitmi.gov/hope. They can call and have it mailed to them. They can download it online. But even more so, we have a number of community partners throughout the city that they can actually go to get assistance with the application.
Okay.
And here's the other part I just want to make sure that our community understands. If you are homebound and you can't get out, let us know, and we're going to come to you. I hate it when we, and I'm going to sound a little teary-eyed here, but I hate it when we try to throw people away. It's wrong, and I refuse to allow someone who may not be able to get to us not get assistance.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so get free property tax assistance. So this is what you were speaking of.
That's right. We have some wonderful community partners throughout the city. Probably somebody that's right in your neighborhood where you can actually go and get assistance with the application, getting it completed. But here's the beauty of it. When they complete the application, it's electronically submitted to us. So when they complete the application and submit it, the application comes to us automatically. Now, I actually, from my phone, monitor applications that come in on a daily basis.
Wow.
So I'm always tracking what's going on.
That's true commitment. Okay, that's a true commitment. I see some of our fellow businesses here that we have interviewed as well as partnered with. So Bridging Communities is one of our dear friends and collaborations on things. Hannon Center, Central Detroit Christians. Some wonderful services. Valley Park. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cody Ridge. All right. Cody Ridge. All right.
Wonderful partners.
Right. Okay. So this one here, Detroit Property Assessment Board Review Process, 2024 process for reviewing homeowners property exemption Hope application. Now, I know what this one is, but I'm going to let you tell people because to me, this was like the most valuable page so that you won't make the mistake and fill this out and say, I know I made too much money. You can tell if you made too much money or not based on this grid, correct?
So it's a general reference for our income guidelines. But here's what I want people to understand. Even if you think you may be over, still apply. Okay. And allow the board to make that determination, and here's why. And I'm not going to get in a lot of detail, but there are some things that we have to count, and then there are some things that we just cannot count. Okay. Perfect example, if you're on Social Security, we can't count your Medicare payments. If you're getting a bridge card, we can't use it. We may be able to consider that bridge card as an asset, but again, most of the folks who receive a bridge card, they're not getting $12,000 a year in bridge card assistance.
Correct.
Right? So don't count yourself out.
Okay. All right. That's great. That's great to know. All right. Good. So this is Hope Pay.
Yeah.
All right. And I like the way you guys have that acronym. Okay. So what's that Hope stand for?
Homeowners Property Exemption.
Okay.
And PAY stands for Pay As You Stay. This was a new law that was signed by Governor Whitmer in March of 2020, about 10 days before COVID hit. Wow. But what it does is it provides the ability for anyone who receives a HOPE exemption at any level within the city of Detroit can be entered into the PAYS program, which will reduce the amount of back taxes owing to no more than 10% of the taxable value of their property. Here is a real world story. I won't mention the young lady's name, but she received a home because it was left to her by her mother. And she had over $18,000 in back taxes, and she worked at Burger King, or still works at Burger King. She has 3 children. No way in the world working at Burger King was she going to be able to pay those taxes. We worked with one of our community partners to get her legal assistance to get the property in her name through probate. She filed for the exemption, and she received a 100% exemption. We sent the information over to the county treasurer. She was placed into the PAYS program. Her taxes went from $18,000 to $1,059.
Wow.
And then the balance,
Bless her heart.
and then the balance, we were able to get paid off by the Detroit Tax Relief Fund. So
Great.
the only thing that she had to pay was $120, which is 1/2 of the solid waste fee.
Great. That is great. Wow. So that is a story. Yeah. Okay. So you guys have an event coming up?
Yep. So we do our Healthy Home Resource Fairs throughout the year. And the great part about these is it's not just an opportunity to get assistance with the HOPE application. We provide additional wraparound services. We can get you connected on the water affordability. We have other free gifts and giveaways that we provide at these events. We foreclosure prevention, 0% interest loans, energy cost savings, and then we look at other opportunities to bring in other community partners like Human IT, which provides training on for the internet and electronic services and so forth. We try to make sure.
I see. We got to come by there, okay, and check you guys out. You're doing a lot.
Here's the reality: we service more than 15,000. We do over 20,000 applications a year, but we not just allow, but over 15,000 people a year qualify. So if you have that many people that may qualify for tax assistance, they probably need other help too.
They do.
So we got to begin to connect the dots, right? We got to make sure that they get the assistance that they need, and we have to stop throwing people away and make sure that we're talking to them, finding out their needs, and working with them to get them to where they need to be. Our next goal is our younger folks, getting them through these processes, educated to getting them better jobs.
Mr. Donwell, you know what? I'm getting a little emotional here because you said so much today that is heartfelt, and I know you are passionate about what you do. So I want to thank you for joining us today, truly. And will you come back and see us again?
Absolutely.
All right. Now, don't be a stranger now, okay?
Nope.
Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, I was taken by this conversation because truly enough, you can hear his passion for what he's doing and commitment to the city of Detroit's residents. So I want you to take down those numbers that you see or give us a call and let us know if we can help. We also have the information here in our studio, so if you get confused, not sure which form to fill out, whatever it is, give us a call, 1-800-323-5336, and just email me, Marcia, at Just Ask Talk Show. But you're going to fill out this homeowner property exemption pack, okay? You need to do this, ladies and gentlemen, young or old. Find out. You want to own that house, you want to make sure your taxes are taken care of, or all the money is not being gone. Use this form, all right? So I'm not going to go any further with this, but we hope to see you all again. And Mr. Donwell, please join us again.
I sure will. Thank you.
All right. I'm your host, Marcia Florence, for Just Ask. And what do I always say? If you have a question about a person with a disability or just a general question, don't be afraid to ask. Just ask. I'm your host. Thank you.